Welcome to the LXC.
Alright, hello and welcome to week 2 of the TopHat Lounge podcast. I'd like to welcome our new guest speakers, Robust Octopus from Expired Bandits, JFK from TD Royal, and Queen Frost from Contingent Red for coming to talk to us today. For our first topic, we are excited to introduce the newest champion in League of Legends, Aurora, known as the Witch Between Worlds. Aurora is from the Freljordian village of Amu, if I'm saying that correctly, with a special ability to navigate through the spirit and material realms. Her story and abilities have promised to bring a fresh dynamic to the game according to Riot Games, and we know how accurate they are. I know some of you are probably very excited to play her, and she'll be playable in week 3 of LXC. So let us walk you through Aurora's abilities. First is her passive. It deals bonus magic damage and gains movement speed after hitting an enemy 3 times, triggering Spirit Mode for enhanced abilities and healing. Her Q fires a blast of cursed energy that marks enemies and can be recast to deal additional damage. Her W hops in a direction, becomes invisible, and resets cooldowns with takedowns. I'm sure most of us have seen her little bunny hop in our games and have been thoroughly annoyed by it. Her E shoots a laser that deals damage and slows enemies, with Aurora hopping backwards on cast, and her ultimate traps enemies in the spirit world, dealing damage and allowing Aurora to dash through the area. Enemies crossing the threshold are slowed and pushed back. Aurora is designed to be a versatile mage. The original goal was for Aurora to be top, but she has seen great success in the mid and jungle. Aurora is the first League of Legends champion depicted as being on the autism spectrum. This aspect is thoroughly reflected in her voice lines, lore, and interactions, marking a significant step forward in inclusivity within the game. Riot also announced that the League realm doesn't have a word for autistic, so instead people refer to Aurora as weird. So, now that Aurora has been introduced into the game, what are everyone's thoughts on how she will impact the tournament going forward once she is allowed to be included?
I believe that, once she's allowed to be included, I think with her auto attack and her passive and Q abilities are really strong and impactful. I think that, she's really easy to CS with. She is a relatively easy champion with high mobility, especially with her ult and W. Everyone knows that invisibility is just broken in League of Legends in general. If you look at champions like Shaco, Twitch, Vayne, all champions that people in general, aren't really huge fans of. We see high ban rates for them in solo queue and comp play all the time, especially when they're in the meta. I believe she will have a good place, especially in the mid lane. I think she's a very good burst mage, and I think we'll see moving forward just exactly how strong she is.
Yeah, I think for Aurora, I'm a little bit concerned about how some of her mid matchups will go, especially with some power picks in mid right now, like Tristan and Corki. So I think I'd want to wait for the meta to settle in a little bit more before I say anything concrete about her, but I think she's pretty good. I played a few games, not too bad.
Yeah, I think most of the better things about her is like her wave clear. It's really good because of her Q and the combat on it. The fact that she goes invisible and can reset her abilities on cooldown will also be like very important in teamfights, stuff like that. Her overall seems a little wonky sometimes. I've seen a couple of people play her and sometimes they all doesn't work. I feel like intended you're supposed to like pull people towards the middle, but sometimes you like wonks out and like put them in weird spots on your ult. So I don't know if that's like an actual bug or it's just like how it's intended to work. But yeah, I feel like she's gonna be like really strong once the meta settles, because I don't think she matches up well against like things like Porky and Tristana at the moment.
I personally haven't played Aurora yet, other than in the practice tool, so I don't have a lot to say on her other than her skin is super cute, and I do know a big portion of the League community was pretty upset that they gave her shoes with her skin, because in her picture she has bare feet, and insert what you will there. With the first week's games completed, I believe we can go into more depth with our discussion about next week's win-loss predictions. Let's start off this discussion with the Arbiter League and rotate through them. There are a couple of to-watch teams. RAWR and Puff and Sons have shown great promise this split, but what is everyone's opinion on each of the teams and who's favored, least likely to win, and who's going to get kind of, hate to say canned, but canned.
Oh, completely unbiased take. I think that RAWR is going to lose this week.
Completely unbiased.
Completely unbiased.
I do have
Completely
them favored
biased
to
take.
win.
I think completely biased take. I think RAWR will win this week.
I think, just looking at it, I think TD Royal has a bit of a better look, I feel like. So I think they will win. I think RAWR loses this week for sure.
What a great take.
RAWR is the one favored to win. However, with a lot of pressure and eyes on them, it can maybe be a little hard to perform. But there are some other great contenders. There's Team Siren, who went 2-1 in their most recent game, as well as Tactical Feed, which also went 2-1. They'll be facing OSG, who went 2-1 in their game as well. So that one will actually be a pretty good one to watch to see who comes out for the victory. There's also your team, Queen Frost, if you wanted to talk about Contingent. My friend Nick is on that team, so I'm always rooting for you guys.
Yeah, I think first week was probably one of the strongest teams on our sector of the schedule. So we're looking to bounce back week 2. I know we have a few small issues we're running into on the game against Puff and Sons. So we're just kind of looking to like clean that up and look stronger for week 2. So I think we have a chance of winning this week for sure.
There's also Rift Busters that they actually went 2-0 in their game. And there's so many contenders that could be for the top slots that it is actually hard to just pick one or two teams. Discussed Arbiter, let's move on to Sentinel and teams that we feel will continue to thrive in the top spots. One team in particular is TD Blessed, who went 2-0 in their first round of games. But there are contenders. Like my personal favorite team would be Brom Lives Matter, just because of their name. Also, I did scrim against them a few weeks ago, and they are quite a solid team. Plus, they have a great name. What is everyone's thoughts on that?
You know, as a caster for Sentinel, there are a lot of really good teams in that league that are very interesting and fun to watch. I mean, obviously, as a TD player myself, I'm obviously going to be rooting for the Plat team to succeed. But we saw some really notable performances, especially from the game that I casted, which was for massive bloodbath. So we're seeing really exciting and fun content coming from that league. I am looking forward to casting more games and seeing a lot more of the teams play to their full potential.
I think for Sentinel, I'm part of the same org as Dropping Point Hellfire, where we were a part of it, and I guess they're at the top of the league right now, so I gotta root for them. I like the little podcast notes that said the top laner is Camille One Trick that can't actually play Camille. I think these guys were actually the people that I played against for my tryout, and they ended up destroying us, even though we were like a higher elo team. So I think they're a really well put together team, and I think I'm excited to see stuff from them.
I also agree with that. I faced off against Dropping Point as well, and they are definitely a solid team.
As a contingent member, I kind of have to root for my team here. I know a lot of them personally, so Brown Lives Matter, also a really fun name. I really like that they went with the name. But a lot of teams are looking pretty good. Doesn't look like somebody's super ahead of the table here. It looks like all teams are, for the most part, pretty close as far as the game goes. So I can see a lot of the teams doing even better than they're doing. TD Bless looked really good. DPH also looks really well. But it's the beginning, so it's kind of hard to really grasp this one's so ahead of the other ones, because most of the series were pretty close. There were a lot of 2-1s. So yeah.
I think question real quick. I was looking at the standings. Why does Angie have 4 wins and 1 loss?
To answer that question, it is because of a team dropping out that they get a essential win for that round.
Okay, cool.
Okay. Now that we have discussed Sentinel, let's move on to Crusader. And with so many teams, there is a lot to be discussed. The 2 teams that stood out this week were Bare Minimum, winning against RAWR. RAWR was the team that had most of the votes as the team to win, so Bare Minimum's victory must come to a shocking end for some viewers. Will RAWR pick it up next week? You'll have to wait to find out. But the other team to look for is Contingent Yellow, going 2-0 in their game. Will they be able to pull the same victory off this week, or will they be pushed to the bottom? I said this last week as well, but my personal team to win is Bare Minimum, my friends on it, and I know that they were a little nervous going against the team that was most likely to win, but they actually defeated them 2-0, so there was nothing to be afraid of, which I'm very excited for them because that gives them quite the confidence boosting. Another team that also went 2-0 would be CG Blood Moon.
I could talk about a little bit about the RAWR guys because we played against
Go
them.
ahead.
It was a 3-game series. It was really disappointing to lose because I felt like I actually rejected playing for RAWR in this league to play with this team, and losing to them didn't feel the greatest, right? But I felt like every single game was really close. I feel like we just had some core mistakes on our team, and that kind of led to our loss. So we're hoping to bounce back against Clown, which I also tried out for and ended up like trolling my tryout. So we'll see how it goes.
But with the upcoming matchups, Bare Minimum will actually be versing RAWR, so we will see, because RAWR has been quite the topic of not just the podcast, but all over the LXC. They are quite a notable organization, good or bad. But besides RAWR, let's talk about a couple of other teams. A team I quite like is Syndicate Strokers, their name, with the Strokers in it. But also I've scrimmed against them and gone against them in the LXC last season. And they are, if the players are the same, they are a very coordinated team. And some of the stuff they did was quite impressive, lots of good flashes. But does anyone know any of the teams personally that they can talk about? Either players or teams as a whole?
I know
Great.
Clown Gaming a little bit, but you can go ahead.
Oh, it's pretty interesting that seeing Cage Monkeys, they're a team to look out for, considering every single one of their players is on a win rate contract currently. They're playing pretty, at least in solo queue, they're playing pretty well. And then Clown Blood Moon as well is another team that is also just on solo queue win rate contracts. They're playing quite well. I heard you said that you had something you wanted to say as well about Clown?
Yeah, I think the player to watch for them is Silver Nighthawk, because I played with him during my tryout with them, with that org, and he seems to be like kind of the core of the team. So he was the shot caller, pretty much controlling the team when I played for them. Maybe it's changed now, but yeah, he was a good player that I kind of was watching out for.
Yeah, I haven't had a lot of chance to look into the Crusader League just because I've been busy. So this one was one of the leagues I didn't really get to see a lot about. But just based out of like statistics and like how everybody looks, I was, Contingent Yellow started really well. I think they're a pretty good team. They're pretty solid. So I think they can definitely do very well on their side of the group. Bare Minimum did pretty well as well on their game. I love their icon as well, the little bear. Is like adorable. So those are my 2 teams to watch.
And next week we will have even more notes and gameplays. So now that we have discussed Crusader, let's move on to our last group, Warden. With not that many teams competing, everyone needs to be on their A game, and Seneca Esports did just that in their match. With Seneca being in the lead, everyone else will be setting their sights on defeating them. They were the only team to go 2-0 in their match last week. My favorite team is actually Egonog. I versed them last split. They completely destroyed my team, but they have some really good players. So they're also a team to watch out for. I'm not super familiar with like RAWR Street Logic or Akuma Shurikens, but I do have Akuma as the one favored to win in their upcoming match, so I am looking forward to seeing that. Does anyone have any insights on the teams?
I think it's just really impressive in such a high-elo league to go 2-0. I think that takes a lot of dedication and a lot of work moving like forward. I mean, I think that's very, very strong showing from Sentinel Esports to go 2-0 in such a competitive league.
Yeah, I think it's the same thing. I think this is the league with the least number of teams, so like every single game matters, right? So I think just going off the bat, starting strong like that, it's a really good sign for them.
Yeah, I agree. Going 2-0 in that fashion is like really telling of how much time they put into it and how good they could potentially be. Now, it's like I say, it's a small sample size as we're only in week 2, just starting next week. So like, it's kind of hard to like gauge. Did they play a team that just kind of was on the off day, or did they just win that much better than everybody else? This week they seem to be playing Contingent Esports Orange, which will be their first game of the split. So I'm looking to see if like they continue this like fashion and just 2-0 again, or like how they look against a team that hasn't played yet. And then that will also gauge how well Contingent Esports will be moving forward, since they haven't had the chance to play yet.
I believe Egonog gets a bye this week, so we won't be able to see any gameplay from them.
I think that's the best case scenario for Egonog, considering the fact that, you know, you could really use a week, you know, go over the VODs, you know, pay attention to your mistakes, you know, get some more practice in with the team. I think, you know, usually having such an early or such a late bye week is kind of, you know, something you're not really looking forward to as a, you know, as a team and as a player. But I think for their case, this is actually a best case scenario. So this could be a chance for them to turn themselves around, you know, focus more on, you know, fixing whatever went wrong in week 1 and, you know, going into week 3, you know, new refreshed team.
Yeah, I think it's a really good thing that they get a bye week, mostly so they can just, you know, you reset your mental, you look at your boss, you see what went right, what went wrong, try to fix those things that, you know, didn't go to plan accordingly to what you wanted to do. And since it's so early in the season, it also helps you kind of reset that, and you can, you know, get your pace back eventually week 3 when you play again. So I think it's a really good thing they got a bye week to just kind of like go over what happened on the first series.
Yeah, getting that bye is definitely a good way to reset, because I know, you know, especially if you go 0-2 on the first week, it does mess with your mental a little bit, because you're in last place, and you know, you can always climb your way back up, but if you get that extra week to practice and review and switch some stuff up, you can come back even stronger, and then you can 2-0 your opponent, which is always the goal, but it is nice to actually see 3 games instead of just 2. But actually, there was one additional question that I had written down here. Since RAWR is such a big topic across the leagues, and they have teams, I believe, in every tier. So with RAWR being the only team from Sector 1 in the Arbiter to go 2-0, and they've done pretty well in the rest of the tiers, what are everyone's thoughts on RAWR taking the victory in the coming weeks?
I see them losing.
Really?
I you know, I see them. I mean, I see them doing well in faction, just because I think most of the teams will make playoffs and, you know, perform to a level of, you know, of high caliber. But Just like last season, I predict them to fall short in the playoffs when games actually start to matter. I like to think of RAWR like the Dallas Cowboys. They have a phenomenal regular season, and everyone's like, this is our year, we're going to win a championship, we're going to do everything right, and then something happens.
Just from Crusader League, I felt like our games were pretty competitive up to a point with them. So I'd be interested to see how they match up into the other teams, because I know a few of these teams, like, maybe the power rankings are kind of, like, off a little bit, right? Because I think RAWR is ranked as a number 2 team. I really don't think they are.
Where would you put them?
Where would I put them?
Mm-hmm.
I think they're middle of the pack. I think maybe, like, 5 or 6, something like that.
Okay. I haven't had that much experience with RAWR, so I am excited to see what the coming weeks have to offer.
Yeah, I think RAWR in paper always seems to look pretty decent. But like, it's kind of telling you, we're only in week 1, so it's kind of hard to, like I said, it's hard to gauge like in a higher spectrum how they do. But like, I feel like every team is breedable in a way. So like, RAWR does look really good on paper, but they have known to be falling short a lot of the time. So maybe this time around they'll live to the hype. But as far as like goes, I don't see them going anywhere near like I said, I would probably agree with Octopus. They are like middle of the pack at best.
Okay.
But like I said, like you never know. Maybe in game day you just have one of the best games and then you just kind of roll. So they definitely do have the players to like make it far into the league. But we'll see how that actually tells into the rift.
So moving on to the faction war standings. I am not super familiar with this. It was explained to me yesterday as in like a Harry Potter analogy, so that was quite insightful. But for the faction, it looks like there are 6 of them, with Dropping Point being in the lead with 100 points. And unfortunately, Contingent Esports being in the bottom with 24 points. Does anyone have any comments on the faction war?
See, Conduits at the bottom actually instead of
Conduits. Oh my god. Yeah. Let's go back over that because apparently I can't read because the 2 words look similar. All right, so let's start.
So next level is probably is the bottom team of a team that hasn't played. That has played all their games.
Okay, so they've played all their games, but Contingent and Conduit haven't.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. When are they going to be playing their games?
Next week.
Oh, okay. They were just on the buys, so that's why.
Yeah, so every team gets like a 1 week buy unless you have an 8-team league.
Okay.
So they both had teams on buy, so it be what it be. It do what it do.
The team I'd like to see in the lead would be New Origins. I'm always biased with my opinions just based on people that I know. But they are a very solid team. And once again, watch out for that bot lane. They are aggressive and vicious. So prepare yourselves.
I think the team that the faction that I'm rooting for is probably Dropping Point. I think watching their games is really fun. Really fun to watch their games. They are very aggressive. They're fight first team. Think about it later, which is always fun to watch. So, being able to do that is pretty awesome.
I think it's probably the same for me. I don't know much about factions. I don't actually even know how the system works. But I've never heard of New Origins or Next Level. And I'm under Dropping Point, apparently. So, yeah, I just gotta root for them.
Yes.
Obviously, biased opinions. I'm gonna root for Contingent. We are hoping to do a lot better and look more forward in the standings. As a second thing, I'll probably go for Dropping Point of the faction. The second faction, I would really like to be in the seeing the top. They seem to be really good, and their team seems to be doing really well.
It's one thing to note that in the team, Angie, their jungler Sadness, was the first person to get a pentakill on none other than a Mumu.
No, Mumu Pentakill is kind of crazy, not gonna lie.
Yeah.
I personally don't know how a Mumu gets a pentakill, so that is definitely a highlight of the week. Does anyone
Quite
here play a
ironic.
Mumu?
Quite ironic if you ask me that Sadness got a penta on a Mumu.
Actually, that is hilarious. Do
Yeah,
you
the
think
thing I
Mumu is
wonder
still
about-
sad?
He's probably not sad no more, but the thing I wonder about is, like, maybe in their game, did the people just not respect the Mumu? Because this dude's name is Sadness, right? Like, are we not expecting him to play a Mumu?
Yeah, I
mean,
think
I've
it's
never found a Mumu to be like much of a threat, but apparently getting a pentakill ups that.
yeah, I think it is pretty ironic that his name is Sadness, so he got killing a Mumu. And I feel like a lot of people don't respect the amount of damage that Mumu can do sometimes, and they like underestimate. Especially now with his 2Q charges, which makes him like a lot more stickier, so he can stick a lot easier to your team, and he can find better angles for his ult. Since like if you Q your tank the first time, you still got the second chance to Q the backline, you know. So I think with that being said, it's still pretty impressive to get a pentakill on the Mumu though. Like,
He must have done the AP rush, the Leandries, I think is what it is. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
yeah, probably that would make sense.
I didn't see the game, but it'd be hilarious if he went full AP and moved up.
I think he owes both of the burn items
Oh Jesus.
right now.
He goes Leandries into Sunfire usually, so yeah.
Yeah. And there's that other one. What's it called?
A Blackfire Torch.
Black-
Yeah,
Blackfire
Blackfire
Torch.
Torch. I'm quite a fan of that on Seraphine when there's a lot of tanks.
Yeah, that item is actually pretty good, goal efficient wise, and it is pretty useful.
And it's strong, especially early. If you can get the first part of it, it can do a lot of extra damage because champions do not have that much health in the earlier levels.
I love getting it on brand. It's fun.
Yeah, Brand is not an okay champion. Brand
Yeah.
players should be put in a dumpster and lit on fire. In game.
What's lighting
Yeah.
a brand? What's lighting a brand on fire gonna do?
That's very fair. just
True.
just Nami all him out of the game.
Exactly. Well, if you like lock the dumpster and then he can't get out, I think he's eventually gonna get like really sweaty and annoyed. Yeah.
Yeah, but
That
yeah,
is the goal of the game, to annoy people. So,
Got Timo
Alrighty.
man.
okay, TiVo kit. Well, his shrooms give me anger issues, but other than that, he's an okay champion.
I think Timo's more annoying. It's more like a on factor than he's like specifically annoying.
I swear to
Yes.
God, Timo players don't play the game to win the game. They play the game to be annoying.
Agreed.
Yeah, I think that's pretty valid, yeah.
But yeah,
As a former Teemo main and myself, I think that's valid.
No.
Yeah, there's nothing better than throwing a bunch of shrooms down in basically a straight line, and then they walk forward, hit a shroom, try to get out of it by walking through it, only to hit another and another, until eventually they just give up and die. Personal experience.
I think an underrated annoying champion is probably Nocturne. I feel like in all my solo queue games, nobody can play around this ulti. It's crazy how, like, it seems like such a bad champion, and then you play against it, and it's so horrible.
Yeah, the ult is great. It actually allows the rest of your team to get into a better position with the darkness, so you can go into bushes or jump onto your opponent when they're not expecting it, because everybody's looking for where's the Nocturne.
Warwick's another one of those underrated, annoying champions.
He is annoying. Not as
I would probably
annoying.
probably say the same thing about Seraphine.
I
Like,
love
people
her.
under
You hush.
people under people look. People
You
underestimate how strong she is.
Yes, that is true.
Like her range is ridiculous. Her cooldowns are not super high. Her ult in team fights can be devastating. Like she
Yes.
is like laning, at least laning wise, is probably one of my least favorite champions to go against.
Well, it's just
Yeah.
uninteractive. How do you
Seraphine
interact with
is the
Seraphine?
best.
Uh,
She's my personal
good at,
favorite.
if you're good at playing Seraphine, it's very uninteractive in lane. You kind of just play from afar, poke with your abilities, and what do you do?
For me, oh my god, I could talk forever about Seraphine. She is my girl, although her and I are always fighting. I like her double E. I had never played before Seraphine. I played Sona, but I didn't like her as much. But Seraphine's double E is so important, especially in the early game. Like my duo and we often get a lot of first blood kills because people are not expecting just how long the root lasts. And so if you get it, especially in a minion wave, you have the minions attacking you, plus the two of us, and Seraphine's cooldowns are quite low, and then you slap an ignite on top of that, and the enemy team is usually frustrated. Sometimes they live, but for the most part we can get that like early level 2, level 3 kill, which is great.
You hit 5 or 0. There's no in between.
There's no in between. Yeah. Or your teammate, you have it lined up perfectly so it goes through them, and then they move. And then blame you for whiffing the ult, and you're like, if your fat ass hadn't moved, we would have had a 5-man ulti.
That's the best one, when your teammate just walk towards you and you're trying to ult through them.
Right? Or they flash away and you're like, are you kidding me right now? And they're
You know,
like,
I have
wow,
a question
you
for all
missed.
you guys, real quick.
Yeah.
It's like
Mhm.
I've been playing a lot of scrims, and this is like my first time ever doing like competitive league, like this, right? I've seen an epidemic of Seraphine mids in scrims, in games. Like, what is going on with that? It just seems so useless.
I'm not a big fan of well, when I do play mid, I will play Seraphine. But
I
I
like
think
Seraphine.
she's better in the bot lane, just personally, just because I like it.
I also think she's better in the bot lane, both APC and support. I think mid lane it's very iffy. I just don't think she has the damage.
Yeah, it's the damage output.
I think
every-
the whole
At least in laning phase.
Because
Mhm.
every single game I've played against it is just like they like wave clear and then they do absolutely nothing for the entire game.
Yes.
That's what it's kind of like.
Yeah.
It's kind of like Malzahar, but like worse in
Yeah.
mid lane.
Yeah, the whole idea of Seraphim mid is kind of like to get you like a easy laning phase, because like you can
Yeah,
farm
just-
really far away, so you never have to really go in and trade unless you know you're winning, because your cooldowns are usually pretty low. Your range is pretty huge too, so like you can be very safe and not put yourself in harm's way. And your ult and your AP scaling is pretty good as well. And her ult is gonna be like super impactful in teamfights anyways. So she doesn't really need to interact or like get a bunch of kills or like be super great in lane, as long as she is like sitting there farming and scaling basically.
Yeah, she definitely does better, I believe, in the support role, because she can set up for those early kills. Like the jungler can come and like she can set up for them, but it's just definitely easier in the support role.
If
Plus,
you're
she doesn't need as much gold.
If you're struggling against Seraphine mid, I do highly recommend a GP pick. If you're good at GP, he matches the wave clear extremely well, and he's also just wants an uninteractive lane, and he scales much harder than Seraphine does.
Agreed.
Yeah, I list Seraphine as like one of those like crutch champions. It's like I like to think of this idea of mid lane as like if you get like autofill mid or something, or you don't know how to play mid, you just default to these crutch champions. So like stuff like Veigar or Malzahar, right? Just easy to execute, always guaranteed value. Those are the players I like hate fighting the most.
Yeah, because you can't really catch them, and they are fairly safe champions. Although putting an engage against Seraphine usually does the trick, because while she's mobile with her W, there is not a lot of escape.
I think Aesol is one of those crutch champions that's really annoying, because especially in the lower elos when games go 30 minutes like every single game, Aesol just becomes such a massive issue, and it's not that difficult.
I have a hot take about ASOL. I like the old ASOL way better.
I think it had more whatchamacallit, skill, expression.
The old ASOL was like my champion. That was like my pocket pick. Whenever I didn't know what to play, I was like, oh, just default to ASOL. And nobody knew how to play against it. And then they changed him, and then it's just horrible now.
I think it is better overall, but it's kind of like Aatrox mains, like old Aatrox mains. It's like, you can't really argue that it wasn't a good change that was needed, but like you miss it.
But yes, for our last topic, we can talk about Swarm. It originally, when I played it on the PvE, I despised it. I thought it was the stupidest thing that had ever been created. I hated it, said I wasn't going to play it. But it's really grindy at first. But now, I lost focus yesterday and played it for like 8 hours with my friends, and it is actually a really, really good. I think it's only here for a month, though, if I'm correct. Someone was telling me that. It's a single player game, or you can play with up to 4 people, and then if you do beat the main story, you can get I think it's called Matchmaking Island with 3 other randos if you want, but I think it's more fun just to play with your friends. Have you guys played it?
Yeah, me and my friends have been playing it a little bit. I've only really played a couple of levels, but I feel like it's very fun. It's like when you don't feel like doing anything and you
Yeah.
just kind of want to relax, but you want to play
Mindless.
something. Reminds me a lot of Vampire Survivor.
I also
So-
heard Binding of Isaac. I haven't played it, but my friend said it was like Binding of Isaac. I haven't played that one, so I'm just taking their word for it.
Interesting take.
I'm gonna have to
Swarm's
look
kind
it
of my
up.
jam because I love games like Vampire Survivor and 20 Minutes of Dawn. So like as soon as I saw that Swarm came out and you used WASD, I was like, oh my god, this is crazy. It's perfect for me. So I've been playing a lot of it. It's super fun. Yeah, it's really easy just to like lose track of time when playing that game.
I will say, Swarm has caused me to accidentally flash sometimes in my League games because I'm clicking WASD. So I'm like, I'm moving, and I'm like, oh wait, no, I'm not. I'm flashing.
Right. I have trouble going from like 8 hours of Swarm to a normal because I automatically go to the WASD pad, and I'm like, nope, don't hit flash, don't do it.
Yeah, I've been playing a lot of Swarm too. Just kind of like my off time. We've been kind of like grinding a little bit because we just kind of got like, in the whole rabbit hole of like just playing Swarm and just trying to get through the whole thing. We're right now. I think we're in the middle of the hard mode now.
Yeah, I just started the
And
hard
it gets really intense when you get to the third level.
It's so hard. We beat the warehouse district on hard, and then we are working on the outskirts, and we've got all the way to the boss. We were like, I think it was like 1,000 health from almost dying, and we all just got one shot. It was very depressing.
Yeah, it gets progressively harder as the time goes up, and it gets like almost impossible to like dodge everything.
Yeah, you have to get the right like equipment and the right level ups, I feel, and you have to make a team comp. Like it just can't be like random champions. You have to kind of plan it out.
Yeah, definitely.
I will say, we love to give Riot a lot of flack for their ability to balance and keep League very fun and energetic, but with their most recent game modes and changes to both, Arena and Swarm, I'm going to do something I have not done in my entirety of time of playing League of Legends. You are doing
Riot.
a good job, Riot. I said it.
I did hate it in the beginning, but once you get past the grindy part, and it's mindless, it takes maybe 25 minutes because it's 15 to the boss, and then depending on what mode you're on, the boss will take 10 years, and then you'll just get killed 5 seconds before it's supposed to end anyway. So, overly frustrating, but you can unlock a lot of champions. I was just actually looking at the champion pool. My favorite, and I think it's a lot of people's favorites, is Jinx. She puts out high DPS, And you kind of need her in the hard mode. You need that one champion. And my other one would be Leona. She doesn't do a ton of damage, but if you get the right items on her, she is nearly unkillable. Same with Alawi. Briar is pretty good damage and surviving, but she does go face first into the enemies and doesn't stop unless you make her.
I'm very surprised you didn't mention Seraphine.
I have a love-hate with the Seraphine in this one. I tried it out. Her damage output is minimum, plus her shields are on such a long cooldown that I don't feel like, especially in like the hard mode and in the insane mode, are going to be very helpful. Like you have to get a very specific build on her, so I'm a little bit salty about that because I do love my girl. But yeah, my favorites are Jinx, Leona, and Briar.
Yeah, I mean, all in all, Swarm is a great game mode. I find it quite enjoyable.
Now that week 2's podcast is coming to a close, I would just like to thank our speakers that came out. Robust Octopus, again from Expired Bandits, JFK from Team Royal, and Queen Frost from Contingent Red for coming on the show and talking to us and going off on our little tangents about Seraphine and Swarm. And I look forward to having you guys back on in the coming weeks if that's something you want to do. But other than that, thank you for coming, and we will see you all next week. Yay!